So, I don't know if you've heard the news. Ducktales, the reboot series, may be ending. And this is a series I have not talked a lot about on my channel. And a lot of that has to do to the failure of Disney Plus with episode orders. All the episodes are out of order in Disney Plus, or were. I think they fixed that. I'm not really sure. And that is the only way to watch it besides buying it on iTunes and things like that, which I don't want to do, of course, because that'd be way more money than it's worth, things like that. Or I could pirate the episodes. So I don't understand why Disney Plus decided to put all these episodes in order, but I wanted to talk about this show, and I figured, look, this is my last chance to talk about the show before it ends, because it isn't over yet. Season 3 is still airing, and that might be the end of it. Here's the reason I hear. Basically, Disney has a rule for their shows that they can only run a certain amount of episodes, and then they cancel them. There are some exceptions, like Kim Possible, Phineas and Ferb, but everything else falls into that episode count, and that's why Disney shows just kind of end for the most part, which is a really weird thing, because it's like, if your show's successful, keep running it. But the way they had that because of syndication, but now we don't really use syndication, we use streaming. So the more episodes available to stream, you would think would be the better, but seems like they're still going by that garbage rule. Also, it just doesn't make sense, because they announced a Darkwing Duck reboot to come to Disney Plus. So my guess is that it's not canceled, and that people are because it hasn't been officially canceled. It's being reported as canceled, allegedly, but it's not like showrunners came out and said yes, it's over. So we're hearing some hints. If it ends, so be it. But I think what they're just getting ready for is they want to cancel it, bring it back on Disney Plus or something. That's what I think. I think they should just end season 3, then have one DuckTales movie, and then put that out on Disney Plus. That's what I think. So let's talk about DuckTales. I'm going to be doing what I do with the Owl House. Every Thursday, I review an episode of the Owl House, and now I will be doing every Wednesday an episode of DuckTales. Today we will be reviewing 2 episodes. Now these are not actually 2 episodes, but again, Disney Plus has such bad issues with TV show airings and things like that. They gave the first episode, which is titled Woohoo, they split it into 2 parts. Fine, because the episode is very long, so I understand. It's like an hour long almost, so I understand that. But there's still one episode, so instead of calling them Woohoo Part 1 and Part 2, one's called Escape / From Atlantis, and one's called Woohoo, which they're not 2 separate episodes. They flow directly into each other. Again, but either way, I'm not too familiar with the original. I didn't sit and watch the original. I was, I'm younger than the original show. I wasn't alive when it came out, and I've seen some episodes here and there, but I'm not like, oh, I've seen every episode. I love DuckTales. I love the theme song to DuckTales, and that's about it. But what I do know about this show is Huey and Dewey and Louie are always characters that are completely identical, and you never could tell the difference. I'm not going to act like that's never a problem with this show, but it is something that's a lot better in this show. And those characters were just kind of characters I knew from other Mickey Mouse projects too, so I kind of know that. But this episode starts. Donald is trying to get a new job, and the boys start causing trouble, so he leaves them with his Uncle Scrooge, which he hasn't seen in many, many years, because of some mysterious falling out that we're not aware of. And after the boys spend some time with their Uncle Scrooge, who hints at some past with his family with some more, we meet the boys meet Webby, a eccentric girl that is the daughter of Mr. Scrooge's housekeeper, Mrs. Beakley, and they are and they kind of become friends, and they cause trouble. And Mr. Scrooge, and they kind of re-excite Scrooge's excitement for adventure. So he decides that he's going to take them to Atlantis. Um, that's a fun setup. We have a character who's ready for adventure, but he just needed that call, and our characters bring him into that call for adventure. It's a really great premise idea for the show. For the first episode, it gives us a great introduction, and then the boys obviously didn't know a lot about Donald and how he was an adventurer, because again, this past going on here is mysterious. Our boys, for some reason, don't know. Somebody's hiding something. We don't exactly know why. We meet Launchpad, who there isn't too much to say about him. He's just the goofy comic relief character within the show. And so our boys head off to Atlantis. Meanwhile, we meet Donald, who is at his new job working for Glomgold, which is a Scottish duck villain from the original Ducktales, who, I will say, not to spoil too much, throughout the show, he is a very minor antagonist. He's not that big of a threat throughout the series. He's more of a goofy character, and as that, I think he works great. Sometimes he can be like a legitimate threat, like he is in this episode. So our characters are going to Atlantis. They go through all the stuff, and it kind of shows us how Scrooge is going to grow a relationship with the boys within this show. He doesn't trust the boys to kind of do anything. He wants to do everything for himself, but yet he needs to learn to put more faith in his family. And we kind of see how that grows throughout this episode. And they go through the little adventure Atlantis, they find their gold, and they leave. And, of course, classic Atlanta style, Atlanta sinks back into the ocean. And Donald reacquaints with the family, and they become a lot closer after. And also Donald ends up staying with them, with Uncle Scrooge, because their houseboat blew up. So it no longer becomes a quick babysit. It now becomes they're living with Scrooge for a while, and that's kind of the setup. And then there's also a big hint here that about Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mom, and where that could go. And I think that's something very interesting. That was something never explored in any DuckTales show or any media with the boys. And so this is kind of an interesting show. And I like that they made Donald the sailor, because in every version of in every version of Donald Duck, he always wears a sailor hat, acts like a sailor, but he never actually is a sailor, except for in the original DuckTales and in this show, which is great. Here's the thing. You don't need to watch the original DuckTales to understand this show at all. It's a great show. The comedy here is great. The introduction and setup to the characters is so good that as soon as I watched this for the first time, I immediately wanted to watch the next episode, and it got me hooked on the show instantly. It's a great setup. It's well paced. There's lots of action. There's lots of humor. Everything that works great about the show is within the show. Gives a perfect introduction to what the show is, and it's clever and it's witty, and they have a lot of fun with it. And that's what I really, really like about the show, is that, like, the idea of our characters doing what they do and kind of where they're going to go is so interesting, and you like our characters immediately, and it's kind of a show where they can kind of do anything. The show has lots of mundane adventures. It has it, but it also just has like actual adventures and demigods and things like that. And there's so much, and that's kind of what DuckTales is. And so, kind of watching that play out through the show is fantastic, and I'm excited to be reviewing the next episode. But overall, I rate this episode a 10 out of 10. 10 Scrooge's Money Bins out of 10.